This is our life. In this chapter, we're going to talk about all sorts of different hurdles we've recently experienced in our lives and how particularly challenging it has been to jump over them. Here's Greg. 2 years ago, he suffered serious injuries while driving his motorcycle.
Yeah, I suffered a difficult couple of injuries where I fractured parts of my neck, dislocated my right shoulder pretty badly, and suffered a pretty nasty head injury, a concussion. And for what I do for a living as a camera operator that puts cameras on your shoulder and your neck and your head is affected, it's been a big hurdle getting back to health from that. It's a bit of an eye-opening experience having something happen like that, where maybe you saw a scenario where you didn't come out of that okay, which was very close in my case. You change your perspective a little bit on how you approach life and obstacles and goals and what you want to achieve. And I think the biggest thing was after 2 years of physiotherapy and psychiatric evaluation for trauma done physically and mentally, it was one that left me with a more profound view on what it is to be happy. You know, that's where I'm trying to make all my decisions from. Is this gonna make me happy? Is this person gonna make me happy? Is this job gonna make me happy? Is this piece of cake gonna make me happy? Is this, you know, so if you can kind of strive to string all those happy moments, as many as you can together in a day, I call that success.
I think Cake has a pretty good track record of making people feel happy.
How do you not smile with cake?
With having your life significantly altered while on a motorcycle, did you have any trepidation about getting back on the bike?
I was really anxious to get back on the bike.
So you always knew you were going to?
I always knew I was going to go back onto the bike. It's an indescribable feeling being on a motorcycle. It's the closest thing to flying without leaving the ground, and it certainly makes my heart feel that way. And it's a big part of myself, and not only that, but my family's involved with it too. And I don't think there was ever any reservations that I was going to get back on the bike. But obviously a few butterflies the first time I sat down on it again.
So the fact that your parents have a love for motorcycles as well, that kept them from saying things like, "Hey Greg, you sure you want to do this?"
I think my dad is also a part-time instructor for motorcycles and helps people get their license. My mom is also a motorcycle rider. We're a Jewish motorcycle gang terrorizing deli shops and bagel places. So they all knew I wanted to get on the bike, and I think they're all really supportive because they understand what being on the bike means to me and the feeling I get from being on that motorcycle. So the only reservation my dad has was to just remind me that if you're hesitant or if your head's not in it or you have reservations, that's not the time to get onto the bike because you need to be pretty decisive when you're on there.
So from motorcycles to cars. Now this is a much more lighthearted hurdle, but don't you love people who give names to their cars and treat them like they're children?
So there's Cindy. She's my beloved Honda Civic. She's the tender age of like 13 or 14. I've had her now for 6 years. She's taken me across Canada to move it to Victoria. Everyone scoffed at me 4 years ago when I was coming back across. She made it, and not only did she make it, she thrives. So she's a little bit dirty right now because she lives underneath the tree, but that's part of her charm. And another aspect of her charm is I actually have to pop my trunk in order to open up her gas tank little lever thing. So she has little quirks and cute things going on, but she's gone everywhere with me. That's Cindy.
Thanks for joining us, Cindy. Okay, now May, tell us about your little one.
Lulu is basically the daughter I don't have. She is my yellow beetle. She's amazing. We've been there through the high times, the low times together. We've cried together, laughed together. She's basically my most stable relationship, and she's my car. It's great, but she's actually dying, to be honest. But I still love her very much, and I pet her, and I tell her that she's number one, and I give her a little encouragement. We have that kind of relationship. Lulu, she is dying.
So very heartwarming. Hang in there, Lulu. Now here's Will, who experienced something that is almost always considered to be taking a step back, but shouldn't. Because honestly, in this day and age, it's something a lot of us have to do.
I moved back home for about 3 years. And that was a major hurdle, not just because I work downtown and moving out to Mississauga, dealing with transit. It's more also the fact that you feel like you're disconnected because you've built like a life in Toronto, you have friends there, you have everyone there, and so you feel like you're almost putting that on hold for a few years to save money and to build up. So you constantly try to balance both, even though it's very, very difficult, always. And so I'd say that's probably the biggest hurdle, just acknowledging that this is a step I have to do. This is something I need to get to the savings I want, to buy a house later, goals I want to achieve. So I would say that was the biggest hurdle, just having patience. And that's sort of the hard thing, because you want to be driven like, no, I'll get to it there, but it really just takes time. So just enjoying the situation I had. I mean, it was great. I got to see my parents more often, which I really liked and really enjoyed that. But, you know, wanting to be back down, just having the patience to ride it out until I was ready to come back.
And now Jessie Lou, who makes a really interesting comparison between love and career.
Yeah, so an interesting hurdle that I have just recently discovered is that I didn't know that my kind of fear of not really finding love stemmed from a lack of like faith and trust in the process, I guess. And I talked to a friend about this, and she said that she doesn't think she will have the career she wants, and no matter what she does, she feels like she's stuck in this concrete block and she can't get out of it, and all the chipping away she does just won't get her there. And it was weird because like I considered her super talented and creative, and I could see her whole career laid out in front of her. And I said, you really just need to do this and this and this and this, and you will get there. And whatever step you take, even if it's a mistake, is a step towards what you want. And as I was typing this to her, I realized, oh shit, I can definitely say this to myself about love. And she felt that exact same way. She said, you can take the steps you need to take and just trust the process and know you will find what you want to find when it comes to love. So that's a huge obstacle for me to tell myself to stop telling the story of you're never going to find it, you are stuck, it's never going to work out, and to just trust in the system.
My friend Katie is originally from the Kootenays, beautiful British Columbia. It says that on their license plates. Now in chapter 1, I told you that Katie became very sick last year while she was attending school in Toronto. She battled like a champion and is healthy and happy today. But how hard was it to tell people you were sick?
The day I found out I was sick, I had to call everybody in my immediate family one by one and hear their different reactions. Hearing my dad cry on the phone was the hardest part of everything so far. Hearing him kind of go quiet and then not say anything as I explained everything, and then at the end start to ask a couple questions. And I sugarcoated everything so much for him and made it seem like everything was going to be okay. And then at the end, he said, "Is it cancer?" And to say yes and hear my dad try to rush me off the phone because he was crying was, I'll never go through that again. I'll never feel, I hope anyways, that I'll never feel anything like that. Just the sheer, like I heard somebody break on the phone, and that's such a weird, sad, emotional, trying thing to experience. Even though it wasn't in person, you could still just hear him break. So that was something I'll never forget. I still think about it. And calling my mom and my brother and his fiance, that was really hard, but dads don't cry unless it's really serious. And I don't have a child. I don't understand what that's like to have somebody that you love so much go through that, because I've had a relatively easy life, knock on wood. Other than that, I had a hard time telling people because I didn't want to play the pity card. I didn't want it to be, oh, I'm sick, feel bad for me. I just tried to focus my energy on going to school and finishing that. But I think that ended up being a huge downfall of mine. I needed to be asking people to go to the hospital with me. I needed to not be sitting in the waiting room alone in the cancer center. So that's something that I've learned kind of in retrospect, that I needed to allow more people to be there.
What has this taught you about life?
I feel like you don't know how strong of a person you are until you have no choice. So I learned a lot about myself in just how I dealt with it and how my family dealt with it. So I realized I'm much stronger of a person than I would have given myself credit for. But I feel like anyone in that position has to do the same thing because you have no choice.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Katie. And now, I guess it's my turn. Yeah, so just like Will had to do, I also moved back in with my parents this year. And it was a bit of a unique situation. I was living out of the province in Winnipeg for 2 years, and I genuinely loved the experience. I loved the city and the job. But after 2 years, I felt it was kind of decision-making time. I wanted to move back home eventually, and I was saying to myself, well, if Toronto is where I want to be, if that's where I want to live my life and work, then maybe it's time to get back. And when we talk about hurdles, it's been a slow process for me. I moved back without a job lined up, and it has been incredibly challenging to find a full-time job, which I think has really surprised me. But in the industry I work in, which is broadcasting and media, it's incredibly competitive. So to kind of encapsulate how I've been feeling this year when it comes to the career, it's been tough. It takes a toll on your confidence, it takes a toll on your drive, and I'm Mr. Drive, I'm Mr. Motivation. You know, I'm usually the guy that nothing can get me down, but I have been down, and it makes sense. But I keep at it because I know I'm gonna get there eventually. I gotta be patient, keep doing good things, create your own opportunities, and you know, you're gonna make it work. But with all this kind of rejection this year and on the surface kind of negativity, I really tried to focus on what I do have instead of what I don't have. I do have an amazing part-time job right now. Yes, it's just part-time, it's not full-time. Would I like it to be full-time? Of course I would. But it's an amazing part-time job that is perfect for my skill set and lets me completely be myself in front of an audience, which is what I like doing. So I'm very grateful for that. And when it comes to the full-time job, I've really challenged my way of thinking. I've really tried to clarify my thought process. Am I applying to the right kind of jobs? What do I really want? So in closing, you've heard a lot of different narratives from my friends thus far, but I think it's important that we all talk about this. It's important to talk about your daily struggles, what you're going through. It's only gonna make you feel better. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's nothing to feel shame about. This is our life.